Hi, my name is Cy Porter, and this tutorial is a continuation on hand-drawn lettering. So, if you're going to be doing hand-drawn lettering, it's very helpful to understand sort of the most standard kind of lettering, and then you can play off of that. And what I have here is typed out Helvetica font, and basically it's just about as basic a font or letter style that you could make it even more basic, but this is really very, very basic. So I want to show you the different things that make up a font or a letter style or a group of letters. So what we have here is we have consistency of height. I'll just kind of go in here. So what we have here is throughout. Now remember, what a letter is a drawing. That is what a letter is. And when you have a group of drawings and you can get them to collaborate, that creates a really cool drawing composition. So when I talk about these rules of a font, I'm talking about how these individual drawings collaborate together and start to work in design. So what you have here is consistency of height and consistency of thickness of line. You can see how overall these lines are similar thickness, and there are variations in some of the curves, like where this curves around here. You can see over here with the R, it thins out a little bit, just very, and then over here in the Q, there's a little bit of a thinning out, at the top and base, but not at all as exaggerated as it can be. And keep in mind that what I'm describing here are predetermined rules of patterns that the letters are all going to follow. So when you're hand drawing a font, in your mind you can think, okay, I want the back part to be really thick, just incredibly thicker than the rest of it. And then you start drawing away and you realize that, as each letter follows that rule, you can create different fonts that way. So it makes it's a really fun way to hand letter. I know that hand lettering can seem really non-creative, but actually there's a lot of potential for creativity in hand lettering. So you've got consistent height, consistent thickness, and over here you can see that what we've got here is this one measurement that divides the bottom half of the letter from the top half, and there's consistency with that also. And you can see that where the middle bar here for the F and then the G, and the H, they all line up, and you can see how the bottom half is a little bit, has more height to it than the top half. The top half is a little shorter, and that's pretty common in lettering, because lettering in composition, in two-dimensional composition, often if it can imitate what we see, and what happens in nature is that as objects go higher, their components get smaller, and you can see this in trees and plants and animals and buildings, and it's just an effect of gravity, and it's something that pleases us to see. The components get smaller as they're stacked on top of each other. So this B here, you can see it follows that compositional it's something that pleases people to see in letter style and other two-dimensional composition. It makes them happy. So if there were a third tier on the B, it would be even shorter, and then the fourth one would be shorter and shorter. So you got taller component here, shorter component up here. And the character of the lines, these lines are very much horizontal and very much vertical. When this font was set out to be drawn, that is like, it's going to be 100% horizontal and 100% vertical. And that applies to all the straight lines. Well, except, like V's and W's, the angled lines. But even the Y, if you look, so if you're going to have an alphabet that is 100% vertical and horizontal, make sure that that one Y line is also, to have the Y consistent. And if it's going to be angled at all, make sure that you angle this one too. Don't forget about that one line. It should follow this one line here should go in the direction of all these other lines here. So, and as far as the angled ones, like the V and the W and the X, it kind of depends on, their angle depends on, see, the W is wider than the V and the X, but the V and the X are just the same width. So that kind of determines, that's a pretty sharp angle here, and these angles over here aren't as sharp, but that's compensating for, the width. And also a characteristic that they decided that there would be straight lines in these parts of the letters. Do you see how with, and it's the same with the B up here, they decided that it wouldn't go directly into curves, but that it would stretch out with some straight lines first. That's another stylistic characteristic. And okay, in the smaller letters, you have it divided into two parts, but you can see the bottom part is much larger than the small part. And this is in this particular font. This does not have to be in your font. Again, you can make up any rules that you could possibly dream up, ever possible. The thing is that you get all the letters to follow them, and that's what making hand drawing, that's what can give it its impact. So in the lowercase, they decided that the bottom half would take up much more, would be much taller than the top half, which I think is a pretty cool style. And then you have, like, the small e, where there's a subdivision, and you can see the small e follows similar rules to, like, the B. That is, that if you subdivide the small e, the bottom half is taller than the top half. And just to notice some things, this particular font has these little things here, and it shows up where the U go. So in the M and N, you have it, and you can see you've got it down in the U. You have it over in the R. That's something. These don't necessarily have to be there. You don't have to treat the letters that way. And you can see how this is in the T here. You can see there's a consistency of this little hook, this little flattened off hook. So all in all, this is really a well thought out font style, and it's also the most basic. So if you have an understanding of this font, this gives you a lot of, what you can do is you can start to improvise these different attributes of the letters. You can say, I want the bottom half of the letters to be really tall compared to the top half, or I want, you can say the far leftist, the most left straight line of the letter is going to be a lot fatter than the rest of it, and you can just kind of make up these rules, and that's how you can really start to tweak your hand-drawn letters. Hope that was helpful, and I make these to get the word out on my animation at solomation.com. So if you want to see some free animation, please check it out, and I hope you have a great day.